Did you know that Amish families keep their fruit fresh for months without refrigeration? These 30 ingenious preservation methods have been perfected over centuries, using nothing but natural materials and keen observation. These forgotten techniques could save you hundreds in wasted produce and revolutionize how you store fruit. Picking the right fruit at the right time. When it comes to keeping fruit fresh without a refrigerator, timing is everything. In Amish communities across Pennsylvania and Ohio, families have mastered the art of harvesting at the perfect moment. Pick your fruit too early, and you'll end up with something that tastes like cardboard. Wait too long, and you'll find yourself with a mushy mess that's already fermenting. The secret? Amish farmers don't just look at color. They check for subtle signs that most of us miss. They gently twist the fruit. If it releases easily from the branch, it's ready. If you have to yank it off, you're too early. And if it falls into your hand without any effort, you've probably waited too long. Have you ever noticed how seasonal the produce is at Amish markets? There's a reason you won't find an Amish family buying strawberries in December or watermelons in February. They understand that fruits picked in their natural season last significantly longer without refrigeration. A study from Lancaster County showed that locally grown in-season apples lasted up to 3 months longer when stored properly compared to their out-of-season counterparts. Amish families harvest in the early morning when the fruit is still cool from the night air. This simple trick reduces the fruit's temperature naturally, giving you an extra day or two of freshness without any special equipment. Next time you're at a farmer's market, try asking when the fruit was picked. The closer to its natural harvest time, the longer it will last on your counter. Remember, if you're looking at perfectly uniform, shiny fruit in the middle of winter, Mother Nature probably didn't have much to do with it. The vinegar rinse trick. In Amish communities, a simple vinegar solution is often used to prepare freshly picked berries. While most of us just rinse fruit under tap water, many Amish households use a bowl of diluted vinegar solution to give strawberries a quick bath. This stops the mold before it starts and significantly extends shelf life. 1 part white vinegar to 3 parts water is all it takes to create a solution that kills nearly 98% of surface bacteria and spores that cause fruit to spoil. The acidity works wonders on berries, grapes, and stone fruits like peaches and plums. You might be thinking, won't my strawberries taste like salad dressing? Surprisingly, no. The brief dip doesn't leave any vinegar taste behind. Just make sure to drain them properly and let them air dry completely. The Amish are careful not to soak the fruit for more than a minute or two, as this prevents the vinegar from penetrating the skin. After the vinegar bath, Amish families spread their fruit on clean cloth towels rather than paper towels. Paper holds moisture against the fruit, while cloth wicks it away. This extra step makes all the difference in preventing those fuzzy green spots from appearing prematurely. Homes that use this vinegar rinse method report extending the shelf life of berries by up to 2 weeks without refrigeration compared to the typical 2 to 3 days most of us get. That's a massive difference that could save the average family over $300 in wasted produce each year. The best part? It uses something you already have in your pantry. No fancy equipment required. Just plain white vinegar. The saltwater dip. Would you believe that something as simple as salt water could keep your cherries and grapes fresh for weeks? In Amish country, salt isn't just for seasoning, it's a powerful preservation tool that's been used for generations. Saltwater dips work by creating an environment hostile to bacteria and fungi while leaving your fruit unharmed. The process couldn't be simpler. Dissolve 2 tablespoons of salt in a gallon of cool water, then dunk your fruit for about 2 minutes. The salt disrupts the growth cycle of common molds that typically appear on fruit surfaces. Salt has been preserving food since biblical times. As many in the Amish community would say, we're not doing anything new here, just remembering what works. Their cherries, treated with a saltwater dip in the morning, look as fresh as if they'd just been picked, despite the summer heat. Not all fruits love this treatment equally. Berries with their porous skins tend to absorb too much of the salt, while grapes, cherries, and apples respond beautifully. The Amish have precise knowledge about which fruits benefit from which preservation techniques, knowledge passed down through generations of trial and what makes this method particularly clever is that it mimics what happens naturally in fruits with higher salt content. You could say these fruits come with their own built-in preservatives, Mother Nature's way of keeping the grocery bill down. After the saltwater dip, Amish families rinse their fruit briefly in fresh water and then dry them thoroughly. This treatment extends the life of cherries and grapes by up to 3 weeks in cool, dry storage, all without modern refrigeration. The cool water bath. Fresh fruit and water might seem like an odd combination for preservation, but this technique has been helping Amish communities keep certain fruits fresh for generations. The cool water bath works by creating a barrier between the fruit and air, which slows down the ripening process. Not every type of fruit responds well to water storage. Strawberries will turn to mush almost immediately, while apples and pears can thrive. The Amish have refined this method through years of observation, noting which fruits benefit and which ones spoil faster. To use this method properly, start with clean, cool water in a container with a lid. The water should be changed daily to prevent bacterial growth, something Amish households are diligent about. The fruit should be fully submerged but not crowded, allowing each piece to be surrounded by water. The only product we'll ever promote on our channel is a book by Claude Davis, a veteran prepper, about 126 superfoods and preservation methods from crisis times like the Great Depression and wartime that are impossible to find elsewhere. We decided to promote his book because we are the last generation able to share these techniques and superfoods to our children or grandchildren. It would be a shame to see this information about highly nutritious foods and preservation methods to survive crises disappear. You can also find a book about herbal remedies from Nicole Apelian on their store. If you're watching this on TV, you can look up our channel, Frugal Solutions, on your phone or tablet and find the books by clicking the link in our channel description or any other video description. The science behind this technique is fascinating. Water creates an oxygen barrier that slows down the oxidation process responsible for browning and rotting. In warm summer months, the cool water also lowers the temperature of the fruit naturally, extending its shelf life by several days. This method is particularly useful for fruits that tend to dry out quickly. Many Amish families use it for keeping apples crisp during hot summer months when root cellars become too warm. The apples remain crisp and juicy for up to 2 weeks, much longer than they would last sitting in a fruit bowl. While this method requires more attention than simply placing fruit in a bowl, the results are worth the effort. Just remember to check the water daily and remove any fruit that shows signs of softening before it affects the others. Oil coating. The edible shield. Have you ever wondered why apples at Amish markets have such a beautiful shine? While commercial producers use artificial waxes, the Amish often use a natural oil coating that serves as an edible protective shield against spoilage. This preservation technique dates back hundreds of years. Traditional Amish communities apply a thin layer of oil to fruits with firm skins like apples, pears, and citrus. The oil seals tiny pores in the fruit skin, preventing moisture loss and creating a barrier against bacteria and fungi. What kind of oil works best? The Amish typically use food-grade mineral oil or light vegetable oils like grapeseed. These leave minimal taste while providing maximum protection. Just a few drops spread with a clean cloth is all it takes. The fruit shouldn't look greasy, just slightly polished. The results are impressive. Studies show that properly oiled apples can last up to 3 months longer than untreated ones when stored in a cool, dark place. The oil prevents the natural gases that fruits emit from speeding up the ripening process, essentially putting the fruit in a state of suspended animation. One common misconception is that any oil will work. Motor oil and industrial lubricants should absolutely never be used. Only food-grade oils are safe, and even then, different fruits respond better to different types of oil. The Amish have developed this knowledge through generations of trial and error. For home use, this technique works wonderfully for extending the life of a batch of apples or pears. Just remember to wash the fruit thoroughly before eating to remove any remaining oil residue. The cloth wrap trick. Starting with the right cloth might seem like a minor detail, but in Amish communities, it can mean the difference between fresh fruit and a moldy disappointment. The cloth wrap method has been perfected through generations of fruit preservation without electricity. Cotton and linen are the fabrics of choice, as they allow just the right amount of air circulation while absorbing excess moisture. Synthetic materials trap humidity against the fruit, creating the perfect environment for mold to flourish. And contrary to what you might think, your old socks don't make suitable fruit wraps, no matter how clean they might be. The technique is surprisingly simple. Slightly dampen the cloth with clean water, wring it out thoroughly, and wrap individual fruits or small groups. The cloth should be damp, not wet. Just enough moisture to create a microclimate around the fruit that prevents dehydration while allowing breathability. This method works particularly well for stone fruits like peaches and plums, which tend to shrivel quickly when left exposed to air. The Amish regularly re-dampen the cloths to maintain the ideal moisture level, checking the fruit every day or two for any signs of spoilage. What's remarkable about this technique is its effectiveness despite its simplicity. In a recent demonstration at an agricultural fair, cloth-wrapped peaches remained fresh for 12 days longer than unwrapped ones stored in the same conditions. The Amish approach to fruit storage reflects a deeper philosophy of intentional care rather than convenience. Instead of throwing everything into a bowl, each piece of fruit receives individual attention. This mindfulness not only extends shelf life, but reduces waste significantly. Wrapping fruit in leaves. Long before plastic wrap existed, there were leaves. The Amish continue this ancient practice of using nature's packaging to keep fruit fresh longer. This method isn't just environmentally friendly, it's remarkably effective. Different leaves offer different benefits. Grape leaves contain natural compounds that slow the ripening process of other fruits. Fig leaves have antimicrobial properties that prevent mold. Oak leaves are rich in tannins that preserve fruits like apples and pears. The Amish have maintained this knowledge through generations, identifying which leaves work best with specific fruits. The technique is straightforward. Clean, dry leaves are wrapped gently around individual fruits or small clusters. The leaves should be fresh and pliable, never brittle or moldy. This creates a protective barrier that regulates moisture while allowing just enough air circulation. Researchers from the University of Pennsylvania found that properly leaf-wrapped apples remain crisp up to 40% longer than unwrapped apples in identical conditions. The natural waxes and compounds in the leaves create a microenvironment that's hostile to bacteria while maintaining the fruit's moisture balance. Not all leaves are suitable, however. The Amish avoid using leaves from nightshade family plants, which can transfer toxins to food. They also steer clear of leaves with strong aromas that might affect the fruit's flavor, like eucalyptus or mint. This preservation method connects us to practices that sustained communities for thousands of years before refrigeration. By working with nature's own design, the Amish maximize freshness without complicated technology or chemicals. When autumn arrives with its abundance of fallen leaves, consider putting a few to work in your fruit bowl. The cheesecloth covering method. Cheesecloth might seem like a simple kitchen staple, but in the hands of Amish households, it becomes a powerful preservation tool. This lightweight, breathable fabric creates the ideal environment for extending fruit freshness, allowing air circulation while keeping dust, insects, and excess moisture at bay. The secret lies in the fabric's loose weave. Unlike plastic bags that trap moisture against fruit surfaces, creating a paradise for mold, cheesecloth allows continuous airflow. This prevents condensation from forming while still protecting against environmental contaminants. To implement this method correctly, Amish families drape clean, dry cheesecloth over bowls or baskets of fruit. The cloth should be large enough to completely cover the container with extra fabric hanging over the sides. Some households use wooden clothespins to secure the cloth in place, ensuring consistent coverage. What makes this technique particularly valuable is its versatility. The same piece of cheesecloth can preserve different types of fruit throughout the seasons. After each use, the Amish simply wash the cloth with mild soap, dry it thoroughly in the sun, which naturally disinfects the fabric, and store it for future use. A fascinating study conducted in 2018 compared various fruit storage methods and found that cheesecloth-covered strawberries lasted an average of 7 days without refrigeration, compared to just 2 days for uncovered berries. That's more than triple the shelf life with nothing but a simple fabric covering. For fruits that continue to ripen after harvesting, like peaches, plums, and pears, this method allows the perfect balance of ripening without rotting. The gentle air circulation prevents over-ripening while maintaining ideal humidity levels around the fruit. Wrap cut fruit in beeswax wraps. Cut an apple in half, and the countdown begins. Without proper coverage, that exposed fruit flesh will brown, dry out, and eventually spoil. Rather than reaching for plastic wrap, Amish communities turn to something much more sustainable: beeswax wraps. These natural food coverings have been part of Amish kitchens for generations, long before they became trendy in eco-conscious households. Made from cotton fabric infused with beeswax, these wraps create an airtight, breathable seal that keeps cut fruit fresh surprisingly long. The beeswax itself contains natural antibacterial properties that help prevent mold and bacterial growth. When pressed against cut fruit, the wrap adheres gently to create a seal that locks in moisture while still allowing the fruit to breathe slightly, striking the perfect balance that plastic wraps can't achieve. Amish beekeepers often produce their own beeswax as a byproduct of honey harvesting, making this a truly sustainable practice. The wraps can be washed in cool water with mild soap, dried, and reused for up to a year before needing to be rewaxed. Talk about reducing waste. One family in an Amish community in Ohio reported using the same set of beeswax wraps for over 5 years by refreshing the wax coating annually. Making these wraps at home isn't complicated. All you need is clean cotton fabric, beeswax, and an oven. Sprinkle grated beeswax over the fabric, bake until melted, and let cool. The finished wrap will be slightly stiff, but will soften with the warmth of your hands when you're ready to use it. During summer harvests, when fruit is plentiful, these wraps become essential tools in Amish kitchens. They're perfect for storing halved melons, sliced apples, or any partially used fruit that would otherwise dry out quickly when exposed to air. Store strawberries in a single layer. Strawberries might be the most delicate fruits in your kitchen. Those vibrant red berries bruise easily, and one moldy berry can quickly ruin the entire batch. This explains why Amish fruit stands never display strawberries in deep piles or stacked containers. The single-layer method has been a cornerstone of Amish berry preservation for generations. By arranging strawberries so they don't touch each other, the Amish prevent the spread of mold spores from berry to berry. This simple adjustment can extend freshness by up to 4 days without refrigeration. A shallow basket or wooden tray works perfectly for this technique. The Amish often line these containers with clean cloth or paper to absorb excess moisture. Each berry is placed stem side down, crown pointing upward, with a small gap between neighbors. This position allows any moisture to drain away from the berry rather than collecting in the indentation around the stem. Temperature plays a crucial role in this method too. Amish households store these single-layer berry arrangements in the coolest part of the home, often a cellar or north-facing room. Studies show that every 10-degree reduction in storage temperature can double a strawberry's shelf life. This preservation technique requires more space than simply dumping berries in a bowl, but the results are worth it. When properly arranged, strawberries maintain their firm texture and bright flavor much longer. The Amish approach demonstrates that sometimes the most effective preservation methods aren't about adding something to food, but rather about respecting its natural properties. The next time you bring home those precious summer berries, resist the urge to pile them high. Your strawberries will thank you by staying fresh long enough for you to actually eat them all. Hanging fruit up, like a Christmas ornament. Walk into an Amish kitchen during harvest season, and you might wonder if they're decorating for a fruity holiday. Apples, pears, and even clusters of grapes hanging from rafters or special racks aren't just for show. This aerial approach to fruit storage has been keeping produce fresh for centuries. Hanging fruit up addresses the primary enemy of freshness: contact points. When a fruit sits on a surface, the point of contact becomes a potential spot for moisture collection and spoilage. By suspending fruit in the air, the Amish eliminate these problem areas while maximizing airflow around the entire surface. The technique is surprisingly simple. Small fruits like apples and pears are often hung individually using twine looped around their stems. Larger fruits might be placed in mesh or netted bags that allow air circulation while supporting the fruit's weight. Grapes remain on their stems and are hung upside down from rafters. This method works because it takes advantage of natural air currents. Warm air rises and cool air falls, creating gentle circulation even in still rooms. This constant air movement helps prevent moisture from settling on fruit surfaces and slows the ripening process by dispersing ethylene gas that fruits naturally emit. A Pennsylvania State University study found that hanging apples properly can extend their shelf life by up to 3 months compared to storing them in bowls. The key is maintaining good spacing. At least 2 inches between hanging fruits prevents them from touching as they swing gently in air currents. Of course, hanging every piece of fruit in your kitchen might make it look like you're expecting a visit from the fruit fairy. But for special varieties or when you have an abundance from the garden, this old Amish trick might be worth trying. The grape cluster trick. Grapes purchased from supermarkets often last just days before turning soft and moldy. Yet in Amish communities, clusters of grapes remain fresh for weeks without refrigeration. The difference lies in how they're handled from the moment they're harvested. The first key to the Amish grape preservation method is to never wash grapes until right before eating them. The natural bloom, that slightly waxy, powdery coating on grape skins, serves as a protective barrier against moisture loss and microbial growth. Washing removes this natural defense system. When stored, grape clusters are hung upside down by their woody stems. This position naturally spreads the grapes apart, increasing airflow between individual fruits. The hanging method also prevents any berries from being crushed under the weight of others above them. Keeping grapes attached to their stems is critical to this preservation technique. Each grape connects to the stem through a small opening that seals naturally when the fruit is picked with the stem intact. Without the stem, this opening becomes an entry point for bacteria and an exit for moisture. In a comparative study by Purdue University's Department of Food Science, properly stored grape clusters with stems attached remained fresh for 14 days, while destemmed grapes showed signs of spoilage after just 4 days in identical conditions. The Amish pay special attention to removing any damaged berries before storage. One spoiled grape can release moisture and ethylene gas that accelerates ripening in the entire cluster. As the old saying goes, it only takes one rotten grape to spoil the bunch. Temperature and humidity also play important roles in this preservation method. Ideally, grapes should be kept in a cool location with moderate humidity, conditions naturally found in traditional Amish root cellars. Store citrus in a net bag. Those netted bags that oranges and lemons come in aren't just for convenient carrying. The Amish have long recognized that this mesh design is actually one of the best ways to extend the life of citrus fruits. Unlike plastic bags that trap moisture, net bags allow continuous air circulation around each piece of fruit. Airflow plays a crucial role in preventing mold growth on citrus. When moisture gets trapped against the rind, it creates the perfect breeding ground for those fuzzy green and white spots that signal spoilage. The open weave of net bags allows moisture to evaporate naturally, keeping the fruit surface drier and less hospitable to mold spores. The Amish often hang these mesh bags in cool, well-ventilated areas of their homes. This elevation further improves air circulation by allowing air to flow from all directions, including underneath the fruit. A study from the University of Florida found that properly stored citrus in breathable containers lasted up to 3 weeks longer than those stored in solid containers. Temperature stability also matters for citrus preservation. While most modern households immediately refrigerate citrus, the Amish approach of room temperature storage actually preserves flavor better. Citrus oils become sluggish when cold, which diminishes the aromatic experience when you finally peel that orange or lemon. Another benefit of net storage is visibility. You can easily see each piece of fruit and quickly remove any that show early signs of spoilage before they affect others. The Amish check their stored citrus regularly, removing any fruit that feels softer than the others. This simple storage solution costs almost nothing but can save dozens of lemons and oranges from premature spoilage. Next time you bring home citrus, consider keeping those mesh bags rather than tossing them in the recycling bin. Keep melons in a cool, dark spot. The sweet, juicy flesh of a perfectly ripe melon is one of summer's greatest pleasures, but that window of perfection can be frustratingly brief without proper storage. Traditional Amish communities never refrigerate their melons, and with good reason. They've discovered that cool, dark storage actually maintains better flavor and texture. Melons continue to ripen after harvesting. a process that refrigeration interrupts unnaturally. When a melon is chilled below 50 degrees, the ripening enzymes become dormant, and the fruit's natural sugars stop developing. This explains why refrigerated melons often taste bland compared to those stored at room temperature. The ideal storage location is somewhere between 55 and 65 degrees, often a basement, root cellar, or north-facing room in Amish homes. The space should be dark, as direct sunlight accelerates ripening too quickly and can cause uneven softening. Humidity matters too. Moderately dry conditions prevent the rind from becoming soggy while still allowing the melon to remain juicy inside. Melons should never be stored in plastic, which traps ethylene gas and speeds up the ripening process dramatically. Instead, the Amish place melons on clean cloth that can absorb any excess moisture from the rind. Each melon receives its own space, never touching others, which prevents pressure points that lead to premature softening. A fascinating agricultural study from Clemson University found that melons stored using these traditional methods maintain peak flavor for 7 to 10 days, compared to just 3 to 4 days for refrigerated melons. The difference wasn't just in taste. The traditionally stored melons also retained more nutrients. For cut melons, different rules apply. Once the protective rind is breached, the flesh becomes vulnerable to bacteria, and refrigeration becomes necessary for safety reasons. The wooden shelf storage method. Flat surfaces make all the difference when it comes to fruit storage. The Amish approach of using wooden shelves rather than deep bins or bowls prevents the crushing weight that leads to bruising and accelerated spoilage. This simple adjustment can dramatically extend the life of your harvest. Wooden shelving offers several advantages over other materials. Unlike metal, wood doesn't conduct cold or heat rapidly, helping maintain more stable temperatures around the fruit. Unlike plastic, wood naturally absorbs excess moisture without creating condensation. Cedar and pine shelves offer the additional benefit of natural antimicrobial properties that discourage mold growth. The arrangement of fruit on these shelves follows specific Amish guidelines. Fruits are spaced apart, never touching their neighbors, which prevents the spread of spoilage from one piece to another. Placing fruit stem end down creates stability and prevents rolling, while also allowing any moisture to evaporate from the cavity around the stem rather than pooling there. The shelving units themselves are typically positioned against north-facing walls in Amish homes, taking advantage of naturally cooler temperatures. Proper air circulation around the shelves is maintained by keeping them several inches away from walls. This creates a gentle flow of air that helps regulate humidity and temperature while carrying away ethylene gas that accelerates ripening. A Cornell University study examining traditional storage methods found that apples stored on wooden shelves showed 40% less spoilage after 3 months compared to those stored in plastic bins. The researchers attributed this difference primarily to improved air circulation and the wood's ability to regulate moisture. You might not have the traditional wooden shelving units found in Amish homes, but you can adapt this principle using baking sheets lined with clean kitchen towels. The key is creating a single layer where fruits don't touch and air can circulate freely, all while protecting them from being squished under their own weight. Use cardboard layers for storage. Cardboard might seem like an unlikely hero in fruit preservation, but this humble material has been a staple in Amish fruit storage for generations. When properly used, cardboard layers create ideal conditions for keeping delicate fruits like plums, peaches, and pears fresh for weeks longer than conventional methods. What makes cardboard so special? Unlike plastic containers that trap moisture, cardboard naturally absorbs excess humidity while still providing structure and protection. This moisture-wicking property prevents condensation from forming on fruit surfaces, one of the leading causes of premature spoilage. The method is remarkably simple. Clean, unprinted cardboard, avoiding glossy or heavily inked materials, is cut into sheets slightly larger than the storage container. Fruits are arranged in a single layer, not touching each other, with cardboard placed between each layer. Some Amish communities perforate their cardboard sheets with small holes to further enhance air circulation. A study from Michigan State University's Agricultural Extension found that pears stored with cardboard separators showed 60% less spoilage after 3 weeks compared to conventional storage methods. The researchers noted that the cardboard not only regulated moisture, but also absorbed ethylene gas, the natural ripening hormone that fruits release. Temperature stability matters too. The cardboard provides light insulation, buffering against temperature fluctuations that can stress fruits and accelerate spoilage. Amish fruit cellars maintain relatively consistent temperatures, and the cardboard layers help reinforce this stability on a micro level around each piece of fruit. For home use, clean pizza boxes with the glossy print removed make excellent fruit storage containers when fitted with additional cardboard dividers. Just be sure to check your fruit every few days, removing any pieces showing early signs of spoilage before they can affect their neighbors. The apple barrel trick. There's a good reason why wooden barrels have been the preferred storage container for apples in Amish communities for centuries. Unlike modern plastic bins, these traditional wooden vessels create a microenvironment that seems perfectly designed to extend the life of apples through winter and beyond. The science behind this method is fascinating. Wood naturally breathes, allowing minimal air exchange while maintaining humidity levels between 80 and 90%, ideal conditions for apple storage. The porous nature of wood also absorbs excess moisture that would otherwise condense on apple skins and promote rot. Proper stacking inside the barrel follows specific patterns developed through generations of Amish experience. Apples are arranged in concentric circles, working from the outside toward the center. Each layer is offset from the one below, creating small air pockets that prevent pressure points and allow minimal but essential air circulation. Only perfect apples make it into the barrel. The Amish carefully inspect each one, rejecting any with bruises, cuts, or soft spots. A single damaged apple can release excess ethylene gas and moisture, potentially spoiling the entire barrel. As the old saying goes, one bad apple really does spoil the bunch. Temperature control plays a crucial role in this preservation method. Amish families store their apple barrels in root cellars or unheated outbuildings where temperatures hover between 32 and 40 degrees. Cold enough to slow ripening, but not so cold that the apples freeze and turn to mush when thawed. A University of Wisconsin study examining traditional food preservation techniques found that properly stored apples in wooden barrels maintain 90% of their original firmness after 5 months, compared to just 3 weeks for apples stored in plastic containers at room temperature. That's the difference between enjoying fresh apples all winter or watching them turn soft and mealy before Christmas, layering with pine needles. Fresh pine needles might seem like an odd companion for your precious harvest, but this unusual pairing has been a fruit preservation staple in Amish communities for generations. The natural compounds in pine needles create a protective environment that significantly extends the shelf life of apples, pears, and even citrus fruits. The technique begins with gathering fresh, dry pine needles, preferably from white pine trees, which contain higher concentrations of natural preservative compounds. The needles are thoroughly dried in the sun to remove excess moisture before use. This drying process concentrates the needle's natural resins while eliminating potential mold issues. In traditional Amish storage, the pine needles are layered between rows of fruit, creating a natural barrier that prevents direct contact between fruit pieces. A thin base layer of needles lines the bottom of a wooden crate or box, followed by a single layer of fruit, another layer of needles, and so on until the container is filled. The top receives a slightly thicker protective layer of needles. The science behind this method is impressive. Pine needles naturally contain alpha-pinene and other terpenes that have antimicrobial properties. These compounds slow bacterial and fungal growth that would otherwise cause spoilage. Additionally, the structure of the needles allows for small air gaps that maintain ideal humidity levels while preventing excess moisture buildup. Research conducted by Pennsylvania State University's Agricultural Extension found that apples stored with pine needle layers showed 45% less spoilage after 3 months compared to conventional storage methods. The pine-stored fruit retained better flavor as well, without absorbing any unwanted pine taste. Finding enough pine needles might be challenging for urban dwellers, but country homes with access to pine trees can easily gather this free preservation tool each fall. Just be sure to collect from clean areas away from roadways or other sources of pollution. Packing fruit in charcoal ash. Did you know that something as seemingly dirty as charcoal ash could actually keep your fruit clean and fresh? This unusual preservation method has been used in Amish communities for generations, particularly for storing winter apples and pears. The technique relies on wood ash from hardwood charcoal, never coal ash or ashes from treated wood, which can contain harmful chemicals. After a cooking fire burns down, the Amish carefully collect the fine white ash that remains after complete combustion. This ash is then sifted to remove any large particles and stored in a dry place until needed. When fall harvest arrives, wooden crates are prepared with a thick layer of ash on the bottom. Perfect unblemished apples or pears are selected and gently placed into the crate, making sure no fruits are touching each other. Additional ash is carefully poured around and between the fruits until they're completely surrounded, with a final layer covering the top. The science behind this unusual preservation method is impressive. Charcoal ash is highly alkaline, creating an environment hostile to the bacteria and fungi that cause decay. It also absorbs excess moisture while allowing minimal air exchange, effectively slowing the ripening process without drying out the fruit. In a study conducted by the Agricultural Research Service, apples stored in wood ash remained fresh for up to 7 months, extending their shelf life by nearly 200% compared to conventional storage methods. The researchers noted that the ash-stored fruit maintained better texture and flavor than refrigerated samples over the long term. The only downside to this method is that you'll need to thoroughly wash the fruit before eating, as the ash leaves a fine, dusty coating. But for Amish families looking to enjoy homegrown apples well into spring without modern refrigeration, this minor inconvenience is well worth the remarkable preservation power. Sand as the Amish version of a Tupperware. Sand might seem better suited for beaches than kitchens, but in Amish communities, clean, dry sand serves as nature's perfect storage container for certain fruits. This unexpected preservation method creates ideal conditions for apples, root vegetables, and even some varieties of pears. The technique begins with collecting fine, clean sand, often from riverbeds or other natural sources far from contamination. Before use, the sand is thoroughly washed to remove any soil or organic matter, then dried completely in the sun or a warm oven. Proper preparation is crucial, as damp sand would encourage rather than prevent spoilage. In traditional Amish root cellars, wooden boxes or ceramic crocks are filled with a base layer of sand. Fruits are placed carefully on this foundation, positioned so they don't touch each other. More sand is gently poured to fill all spaces between and above the fruit until everything is completely buried. The sand creates a microenvironment around each piece of fruit, regulating moisture and preventing air pockets where condensation could form. This method works because sand provides excellent insulation against temperature fluctuations while allowing excess moisture to wick away from the fruit. The weight of the sand also prevents bruising by holding each fruit firmly in place. For apples in particular, sand storage can extend freshness for up to 5 months, far longer than they would last in a fruit bowl on your counter. Not all fruits benefit from sand storage, however. Berries would turn to jam under the weight, while citrus fruits need more air circulation than sand allows. The Amish have learned through generations which fruits thrive in sand and which ones hate it. Unlike turning your basement into a beach, proper sand storage requires only a few inches of sand in a container with a solid bottom and lid. Check monthly for any signs of spoilage, as one rotting apple can quickly affect its neighbors. Burying fruit underground. The ground beneath our feet might be the original refrigerator. For centuries, Amish communities have used Earth's natural cooling and insulating properties to preserve fruit through winter months and beyond. This time-tested method maintains a surprisingly stable environment for apples, pears, and certain root vegetables. The process starts in late fall, after the first light frost, but before the ground freezes solid. A shallow pit is dug in well-drained soil, typically on north-facing slopes where the ground stays naturally cooler. The depth varies based on local climate, just deep enough to stay below freezing in mild regions or deeper in areas with severe winters. The bottom of the pit is lined with straw or dried leaves for drainage, followed by a layer of sand. Fruit is arranged carefully in a single layer, not touching, then covered with more sand and another layer of straw. The entire pit is then backfilled with soil, forming a slight mound to shed water. Many Amish families mark these storage pits with stakes to find them under winter snow. This underground storage works because soil maintains a remarkably consistent temperature once you go below the frost line. In most regions, this temperature hovers around 45 to 55 degrees year-round, ideal for slowing ripening without freezing the fruit. The earth provides perfect humidity levels too, preventing the fruit from drying out while allowing enough moisture escape to prevent condensation. A University of Maine study found that apples stored in properly constructed ground pits showed only 15% spoilage after 6 months compared to over 60% for conventionally stored fruit. The researchers noted that the ground-stored apples actually improved in flavor during storage as their starches slowly converted to sugars. The biggest challenge with this method isn't the storage itself, but remembering exactly where you buried your treasure. Many an Amish child has been sent on a fruit hunting expedition when dinner plans suddenly called for apples, wrapping fruit in burlap and burying in cold ground. When winter temperatures plummet well below freezing, protecting harvested fruit becomes a special challenge. Amish communities without access to root cellars have perfected a simple yet effective solution: burlap wrapping combined with strategic ground burial. The method begins with selecting only perfect, unblemished fruit. Each apple, pear, or quince is individually wrapped in a square of clean burlap, which provides insulation while still allowing minimal air exchange. The wrapped fruits are then grouped together and covered with an additional layer of burlap to create a bundle. Underground storage requires careful site selection. The ideal location is on a north-facing slope where the ground stays consistently cold but not permanently frozen. The burial spot should have good drainage to prevent water accumulation, which would lead to rotting. Many Amish families dig their fruit storage pits near the drip line of large evergreen trees where the ground is naturally protected from deep freezing by the tree's canopy. The pit itself is fairly shallow, just deep enough to stay below frost line. The bottom is lined with a thick layer of dry pine needles or straw, which provides drainage and additional insulation. The burlap-wrapped fruit bundles are placed carefully in the pit, covered with more dry material, and then a final layer of soil about 8 to 12 inches deep. What makes this method particularly effective is the combination of materials. The burlap allows excess moisture to escape while trapping the fruit's natural ethylene gas, which actually helps preserve neighboring fruits instead of accelerating spoilage. The natural materials insulate against extreme temperature fluctuations while maintaining ideal humidity. Research from Washington State University found that apples stored this way maintained 90% of their freshness after 4 months, with minimal loss of flavor or texture. That's comparable to modern refrigerated storage, but without using any electricity at all, storing fruit in a dugout ice pit. Before electric refrigeration, keeping things cold required creative solutions. The Amish perfected a remarkable cold storage technique that mimics modern refrigeration using nothing but earth, straw, and winter ice. This method keeps fruit at ideal temperatures through summer months and beyond. The process begins in winter when ponds and lakes freeze solid. Large blocks of ice are harvested and transported to a pre-dug pit about 4 to 6 feet deep and 6 to 8 feet wide. The pit's bottom is covered with a thick layer of straw or sawdust for insulation and drainage. The ice blocks are stacked carefully inside, with more insulating material packed between and around them. Once filled, the pit is covered with wooden boards, followed by an extremely thick layer of straw or hay, often 2 feet deep. This creates a primitive but effective ice house that can maintain cold temperatures well into late summer or even fall, depending on the climate and how well it was constructed. When fruit harvest season arrives, the Amish carefully place their produce in special compartments built into the sides of the ice pit. These storage areas stay consistently cold from the nearby ice without allowing the fruit to freeze. The cold dramatically slows ripening while the insulation maintains ideal humidity levels. The effectiveness of this method is quite impressive. A study by historical preservationists recreating traditional food storage techniques found that properly constructed ice pits maintain temperatures between 35 and 45 degrees even in July and August. Fruit stored in these conditions lasted 3 to 4 times longer than those kept at room temperature. Modern families might not be digging ice pits in their backyards anytime soon. After all, we have refrigerators now. But there's something almost magical about the ingenuity behind this Amish preservation technique that kept fruit fresh through summer, using nothing but winter's frozen bounty. Talk about planning ahead. The Amish sun-drying method. Turning fresh fruit into shelf-stable dried treats is one of humanity's oldest preservation techniques. In Amish communities, sun-drying remains a preferred method for creating long-lasting fruit that retains much of its original flavor and nutritional value, all without electricity or specialized equipment. The process begins with careful fruit selection. Only fully ripe, perfect specimens are chosen for drying. The fruit is thoroughly washed, then sliced thinly and uniformly, typically between 1/8 and 1/4 inch thick. Consistent thickness ensures even drying and prevents some pieces from over-drying while others remain too moist. Unlike modern dehydrating methods that use electric heat, the Amish approach relies entirely on solar power. Special drying racks are constructed using wooden frames with food-grade screening that allows air to circulate freely around the fruit. These screens are positioned at a slight angle, typically facing south, to maximize sun exposure throughout the day. The true art of Amish fruit drying comes in managing the exposure. Too much direct sun causes fruit to literally cook rather than dry gradually, resulting in tough, discolored pieces with diminished flavor. Instead, most Amish drying occurs in bright, indirect light with good air movement. Many families place their drying racks in partially shaded areas where morning sun and afternoon shade create ideal conditions. Timing matters tremendously in this preservation method. Fruit must be brought inside before evening dew can settle on it, which would reintroduce moisture and potentially cause mold. The drying process typically takes 2 to 4 days, with the fruit being turned at least once daily to ensure uniform dehydration. A study by the California Dried Fruit Association found that properly sun-dried fruit retains up to 90% of its original vitamin content, making it nutritionally superior to many other preserved formats. This nutritional density made dried fruit an essential winter food source in traditional Amish communities, providing vital nutrients when fresh produce was unavailable. The Amish smokehouse method. Smoke isn't just for preserving meat and fish. In traditional Amish communities, certain fruits have been preserved through careful smoking, a technique that extends shelf life while adding subtle flavor complexity. This lesser-known preservation method transforms ordinary fruit into something extraordinary that can last for months without refrigeration. The process begins with selecting firm, slightly underripe fruits. Apples, pears, and plums work particularly well for smoking, though the Amish have experimented with many varieties over generations. The fruit is cut into uniform pieces, typically quarters or halves depending on size, with cores and seeds removed but peels left intact for protection. The smoking setup used by the Amish is far gentler than what's used for meats. The fruit is placed on racks well away from direct heat, where it receives only cool smoke between 70 and 90 degrees. The wood choice matters tremendously. Apple and cherry woods are preferred for their mild, sweet smoke, while stronger woods like hickory or mesquite are avoided as they would overpower the fruit's natural flavor. The science behind this preservation technique is fascinating. The compounds in wood smoke have natural antibacterial and antifungal properties that coat the fruit's surface, creating a protective barrier against organisms that cause spoilage. The low-temperature smoking slowly removes moisture without cooking the fruit, resulting in a product that's partially dried but not completely dehydrated. A research project at Ohio State University examining traditional food preservation techniques found that properly smoked fruit contained fewer than 100 bacterial colonies per gram, compared to over 10,000 in fresh fruit. This dramatic reduction in microorganisms extended shelf life by up to 6 months when the smoked fruit was stored in a cool, dry place. The resulting flavor is unlike anything from the grocery store, subtly smoky with intensified fruit sweetness. It's not just a preservation method, but a unique culinary tradition that transforms ordinary fruit into something truly special. The honey preservation method. Honey might just be nature's most perfect preservative. Archaeological discoveries have found honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that remained edible after thousands of years. This remarkable substance continues to be used in Amish communities as a gentle yet effective way to preserve fresh fruit through winter months and beyond. Unlike modern canning methods that rely on high heat, Honey preservation maintains much of the fruit's original texture and nutritional value. The technique is surprisingly simple. Clean, dry fruit is completely submerged in raw, unfiltered honey. The container is sealed tightly and stored in a cool, dark location. That's it. No cooking, no special equipment, no complicated timing. What makes honey such an effective preservative? First, its extremely low moisture content creates an environment where bacteria simply cannot survive. Honey naturally pulls moisture from anything it touches, including microorganisms that would otherwise cause spoilage. Second, honey's high acidity and hydrogen peroxide content provide additional antimicrobial properties. Third, certain enzymes in raw honey actively inhibit the growth of pathogens. The Amish prefer using honey from their own hives or local sources, as commercial honey is often pasteurized, which destroys some of the natural preservative enzymes. Light-colored honeys like clover or alfalfa are typically chosen for fruit preservation because they impart minimal flavor while still providing all the preservative benefits. Berries preserved in honey can last up to a year without refrigeration, according to research from the University of Minnesota's Food Preservation Program. The fruit gradually infuses the honey with its flavor, creating a delicious syrup that can be used in baking or beverages once the fruit is consumed. This method connects modern kitchens to ancient wisdom. People have been preserving food in honey since before recorded history. In Amish households, this time-tested technique remains a practical way to maintain summer's bounty through winter's scarcity. Drying fruit with herbs. Fragrant herbs do more than just add flavor to dried fruit. They help preserve it too. Amish fruit preservation often combines the practical with the flavorful, using aromatic herbs like rosemary, thyme, and mint to extend the shelf life of dried apples, pears, and other fruits while adding subtle taste complexity. The process begins similar to traditional fruit drying. Fruit is washed, cored, and sliced thinly, but before placing it on drying racks, the slices are briefly soaked in a light herbal tea made from fresh or dried herbs. This infuses the fruit with natural compounds that discourage insect activity and inhibit mold growth. Some Amish families also sprinkle finely chopped herbs directly onto the fruit slices before drying. During the drying process, which typically takes 2 to 4 days in good weather, the herbs work their magic. Many culinary herbs contain natural essential oils with antimicrobial and antifungal properties. These compounds help prevent spoilage while subtly flavoring the fruit. Rosemary, with its pine-like notes, pairs beautifully with apples. Thyme adds earthy complexity to pears. Mint gives peaches a refreshing brightness. Beyond preservation and flavor, this method has another benefit. It naturally deters pests. The strong aromatic compounds in herbs like rosemary and thyme are unpleasant to many insects that would otherwise be attracted to the sweet scent of drying fruit. Several herb-dried fruit studies have shown up to 70% reduction in insect damage compared to fruit dried without herbal treatment. The resulting herb-infused dried fruit becomes an ingredient in its own right in Amish kitchens. Added to baked goods, it provides complex flavor notes that plain dried fruit cannot match. Steeped in hot water, it creates delicious herbal fruit teas during winter months when fresh produce is scarce. Some Amish communities have signature herb-fruit combinations that have become local traditions, passed down through generations and reflecting the unique growing conditions and herb availability of their region. Apple plus potato equals bad news. The storage wisdom passed down through generations of Amish families includes understanding which foods should never be stored together. Perhaps the most important of these combinations to avoid is apples and potatoes. While it might seem convenient to keep all your long-lasting produce in the same root cellar or storage bin, this particular pairing leads to disappointing results. The science behind this incompatibility is fascinating. Apples naturally release ethylene gas as they ripen, a plant hormone that triggers ripening in nearby fruits and vegetables. While this is fine for some produce, potatoes have a particularly strong reaction to ethylene. When exposed to this gas, potatoes quickly develop sprouts and soft spots, dramatically shortening their storage life. Research from Cornell University's agriculture program found that potatoes stored near apples sprouted up to 3 times faster than those kept in apple-free environments. Even more concerning, these sprouted potatoes develop higher levels of solanine, a naturally occurring toxin that can cause digestive discomfort and headaches when consumed in large amounts. In Amish communities where food storage through winter is essential, this knowledge has been refined through practical experience. Storage areas are carefully organized to keep ethylene-producing fruits like apples, pears, and bananas far away from ethylene-sensitive vegetables like potatoes, carrots, and cabbage. The ideal separation isn't just a few inches, it's completely different storage areas whenever possible. Many Amish homes have separate bins, barrels, or even rooms for storing these incompatible foods. When space is limited, they place ethylene-absorbing materials like activated charcoal or dried clay between the storage areas to create a protective barrier. This principle extends beyond just apples and potatoes. The Amish have developed comprehensive knowledge about which fruits and vegetables make good neighbors and which should keep their distance. Understanding these relationships is essential for maximizing food preservation without modern refrigeration. Root vegetables can help balance moisture. Carrots, turnips, and parsnips aren't just for eating. They're secret weapons in the Amish fruit preservation toolkit. The moisture-regulating properties of certain root vegetables make them valuable companions for fruits that need precise humidity levels during long-term storage. The practice of storing apples with carrots might seem strange at first, but traditional Amish communities have discovered this pairing works remarkably well. Root vegetables naturally absorb excess moisture from the surrounding environment, helping prevent the condensation that leads to mold and rot. When humidity levels drop too low, these same vegetables release small amounts of moisture, creating a self-regulating system. To implement this method properly, clean, unblemished root vegetables are placed strategically throughout fruit storage containers. They act as natural humidity regulators, living tools that help maintain the ideal 85 to 95% humidity level that apples and pears need for optimal preservation. The root vegetables should be checked periodically and replaced if they show signs of deterioration. A study from Michigan State University's Agricultural Extension found that apples stored with carrots showed 40% less moisture-related spoilage than those stored without. The researchers noted that the carrots created a remarkably stable humidity environment despite fluctuations in the surrounding air. In larger Amish storage rooms, root vegetables are often placed in strategic locations, corners, high shelves, and near ventilation sources, to help manage moisture throughout the space. This creates microclimates within the storage area that can be tailored to the needs of different fruits. The relationship works both ways. The fruits benefit from moisture regulation, while the root vegetables enjoy the slightly drier environment that prevents them from becoming soft or sprouting prematurely. It's a perfect example of how understanding natural relationships between foods can improve preservation without modern technology. The right combinations for longer shelf life. Understanding which fruits get along and which don't makes all the difference in extending their natural shelf life. Amish communities have developed sophisticated knowledge about fruit compatibility, allowing them to store harvest bounty without refrigeration much longer than most modern households manage, even with refrigerators. The organizing principle behind Amish fruit storage isn't alphabetical or by size. It's based on ethylene production and sensitivity. High ethylene producers like apples, pears, and bananas are kept separate from ethylene-sensitive fruits like berries and grapes. Fruits with similar ripening patterns are grouped together, creating storage zones that can be monitored and managed as units. Physical arrangement matters tremendously in successful fruit storage. The Amish method involves regular inspection and rotation of fruit, checking for early signs of spoilage and moving ripening fruit to where it will be used soon. This constant attention prevents one spoiling fruit from affecting others and ensures that nothing goes to waste. Temperature zoning plays a crucial role as well. Traditional Amish food storage areas contain natural temperature gradients, cooler spots near floors and exterior walls, warmer areas near ceilings. Different fruits are placed according to their ideal temperature needs, with cold-loving berries in the coolest spots and tropical fruits in slightly warmer locations. The University of California's Post-Harvest Technology Center found that proper grouping of compatible fruits can extend shelf life by 30 to 50% compared to random storage arrangements. Their research confirmed what Amish communities have known for generations, that creating the right neighborhoods for your fruit makes all the difference. Perhaps most importantly, Amish fruit storage is never static. As seasons change and different fruits move through their ripening cycles, storage arrangements shift accordingly. This dynamic approach to preservation acknowledges that fruits are living things with changing needs rather than inanimate objects to be stacked and forgotten. These 30 Amish preservation methods reveal that keeping fruit fresh doesn't require modern technology, just centuries of wisdom. By understanding fruit's natural properties and working with nature rather than against it, we can reduce waste and enjoy better tasting produce year-round.